in the face.
Are we? Bro, it is not about, you don't have to rapid fire this. That has nothing to do with it. I will never financially recover from this. Welcome to episode 2 of Building Christophsis. So I've got all the parts in now to build my skyscrapers and the bridge section of the build. I don't know exactly how much we're going to be able to accomplish in this episode, but it's my goal to get the hexagons built for the entire bridge and at least get the footprints of the skyscrapers done so I can start feeling things out for how the spacing works. If my math is correct, I have 1,440 gray hexagons to build for this bridge. That's a lot of repetitive building, so I got my wife and a couple friends to help me out. Having some other people to help me work on this made it so much more enjoyable, especially with how repetitive this building process was. We were able to knock out tons of hexagons in a matter of hours, and at a certain point, we basically had an assembly line going where we were all building different portions of the hexagons. I had been kind of dreading this part of the building process because I knew how much was going to have to be done for it, but I was off on my calculations and we actually only needed about half as many hexagons as I thought we did. All that to say, this process was definitely a lot more fun with friends, so if you ever find yourself building a large mock, I definitely recommend having some other people to come and help you out and just chat while you're working on it because it makes it so much more enjoyable. So after getting the majority of the tile laid down here, I decided it was time to figure out exactly how I was going to get everything looking square, and that kind of helps determine the width of the bridge. So as you can see, I've built these half hexagons here, and I was just kind of messing around and put them on both sides to figure out the spacing. And it works out really well, and even with the top here, I've got this all squared off now just by basically adding a tile on top of each of these hexagons, whether it's a half hexagon or sticking a plate and then an extra tile on top. That gets things looking really nice and straight on this edge along here. So once I get more 1x bricks, I should be able to build a bunch more of these half hexagons and get them laid down the entire side of the build to get everything squared up and looking good. Now that I'd figured out that I needed to build these half hexagons, I started using what 1x bricks I had to make a bunch of them and line them up along the front and back sides of the bridge. I made it about halfway down the length of the bridge with this, so I'm gonna have to wait till I get some more parts in from Bricklink to finish this up. I also started working on a modular design for a sloped section that would be on the back side of the bridge. In this image here, you can see that these acted as barriers between the bridge and the buildings. I built these in 16 stud long sections and built an overhang of 1 brick to cover up any gaps. These were pretty time consuming to put together since I used all 1x slopes to build them, but I think it looks pretty good. So keeping transportation of the mock in mind, I've built these kind of barriers along the sides of the bridge here, and I've made it so that they have a row of tile underneath them and they just connect to a single plate here. And that makes them super easy to put on and take off, because I think my only option is going to be taking all the hexagons off the build for transportation just because of the way they're all staggered. I don't think I can really transport this in one piece. So taking these off is going to be super easy, just to take them off, put them back on when I get there. And then also I've left a gap of 1 brick under here. And that just makes it easy so that when I'm working on building this, I can shift the tiles around a little bit. And that means that it's a lot easier to just pull a section of tile out and swap out some of these bricks for snot bricks once I start putting more minifigures in here and stuff. And then once I've got absolutely everything finalized and all the terrain done here, I can just come in and push this up like this, and I can open up one of these sections back here, and I can add bricks in along the entire section, and that'll just help snug everything up to make it nice and tight so that there's not any gaps. I think the end result will look pretty good, especially with the way that this has all come together. I like it, and I think it represents the source material pretty well without being overly complicated. I was pretty excited to get started on building these skyscrapers because when I was building the prototype, I actually didn't even have enough of the right colors in my collection to see what this would look like at the end. So while it was helpful to build a multicolored prototype to make it easier to replicate this, I didn't even know if it was going to end up looking good, and after putting a couple of them together, I'm very happy with the design. I will say though, using a lot of plates to build this makes it a lot more time consuming, and it was taking me about 30 minutes per section while I was watching a TV show and building this. So I'm gonna have to sit down at some point and really focus on this and build a bunch of them, because if not, it's gonna take me 90 hours to build these buildings, and I don't have that kind of time. I think it'll get a lot easier once I have the design memorized though, which I think is pretty inevitable at some point because I'm gonna be building so many of these. Okay, so this is where we're sitting right now at the end of episode 2, and it's not quite as far as I would have liked to have been because I ended up waiting over a week for a Bricklink seller to send me a bunch of these 1x1 bricks, and they finally came in today, but I don't have time to work on the mock today, so this is going to be where we end. But for now, I've got about half of this section done, and it shouldn't take me too long to finish out the rest of it, maybe hour and a half to get all of that done and dusted. With the skyscrapers, I think I'm liking the look of the design so far. I've left this bit open here because I'm going to have to build a door coming out to the side. I was initially thinking I was going to have doors coming out to the front, but I wanted to make the bridge as wide as possible so we could fit more of the battle scene on here. And so with where things are sitting here, I think I'm going to have to build up a sort of platform underneath this to get it level with the edge of the bridge. That way I can put a door that comes out here where we can have like minifigures going in and out and stuff. And then maybe some sort of like a small platform area where you might come pull up on like a ship and then people would go in. Because I'm guessing initially with the way that this planet was set up, this bridge was probably just used as a transportation area that we see in some other planets in Star Wars. So you would want an area for vehicles to park and minifigures to enter buildings and stuff. So I want to kind of get that worked out before I start going too high up with these. And that'll also help me get everything squared away for what the footprint's going to be with these buildings, so I can start laying down the blue tile on the bottom and building some of those blue hexagons for the crystals in the landscape. Overall though, I'm generally happy with the progress. I think I just wanted to build this bridge and get it looking like it would have looked when it was new, and then kind of go back from there. So I'll be pulling out some of these things and making them look more weathered. I'll be adding in a lot of crystal structures, and of course we're going to have that trench where the clones go over to fight against the droids. And just thinking about the general layout of the battle, I definitely want to see if I can try and get a Republic gunship up pretty high here coming into the battle, and that would visually kind of fill this gap really nicely here behind this building up in the air, because pretty much this area here is just going to be blue terrain with those crystals on the base plate, so it's not going to have much going on up vertically. Whereas on the other side, because of the way I have these buildings spaced out, we're going to have one here, another one right there, and then there's going to be one on the end. So I think the gunship will help balance things out visually pretty well. And then right in the middle of the build, we're going to have that bridge going across the center. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed episode 2 of Building Christophsis. I think I should have a decent amount of time over the next couple weeks here to actually get some really good progress done. So I'm excited for you guys to see the next episode. Definitely subscribe if you haven't so you don't miss it. I'm definitely happy with the progress that's being made so far, and I think I'm starting to get a good feel for how this is actually going to turn out, and I think it's going to be really great. So all that to say, let me know if you guys have any suggestions in the comment section down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good one.